You guys are making your way up the crowded street, cobblestone wet under a soft rain, the sound of bells and cries of seagulls coming from the harbor ahead. You spot the distinct golden sails of the Queen ship amongst the forest of masts in the distance. Your target, the galleon that ugly Thieves Guild enforcer swore holds the shipment of dream dust you've been after for weeks.
Is there a lot of people on the street?
Yeah, it's late afternoon. It's fairly crowded. Traders and dock workers, merchants and city folk doing their thing.
Excellent. One should never let a good opportunity go to waste. Do I happen to see any rich folk walking around?
The ship is right there.
Roll a perception check.
Well, this day keeps getting better and better. That's a 21.
Sure, you see one or two figures that sort of stand out. They got maybe a little retinue of guards, and there's one wearing a pretty extravagant set of robes. Very expensive. And his attendant holds a silk umbrella up to keep the drizzle off him.
A silk umbrella. In the rain. Yeah, that's my mark.
I knew it!
He looks wealthy, no doubt, and his 4 guards kind of support that notion. Do your thing.
Let's go, baby, go. A 1? And that 1?
I told you to put the die in the dice jail.
Dang it.
Okay. So you sidle up to the merchant's group, slip between the guards, and at just that moment, the merchant looks down at your hand stuck in his robes. He looks from your hand up to your face. You guys lock eyes. You get the feeling you might be in trouble.
I get the feeling that you're stalling a little bit.
All right. Roll for initiative as the merchant grins at you and whips back his embroidered cloak to reveal a torso wrapped in black bandages and a hole the size of a cannonball where his heart should be. His 4 guards are whirling and turning about, bristling with freshly drawn steel. Welcome to D&D, where most of the time, we're just making shit up. Greetings, good humans, and welcome to Tabletop Alchemy, where sometimes we just contradict previous videos and just make stuff up. Except for thanking our patrons. That's always sincere, and we never make that up. Cheers. Alright, this is just sort of a bunch of random small tips for new DMs on how to get comfortable with living on the fly when you're running a D&D or any tabletop RPG session. There are, of course, lots of reasons for this, but a main one is to keep from railroading your players in uncomfortable ways and to not sweat how your players navigate the world. Playing D&D means playing in a truly open world, and your players can theoretically do anything they want at any time. And so can you. There is one thing I hope everyone can take away from this, and it's a concept championed by the super awesome Hankrin' for an Ale on the Runehammer YouTube channel. It's one that I initially felt truly hesitant about, but in practice, I found him to be right. And that's the notion that you can be honest with your players about essentially not knowing what's next. If and when that happens. If you're in a spot that's way off any map or notes you have, you can just tell them. You guys are all playing a game together, and decent individuals are not going to fire you as their dungeon master just because you let them know you might be discovering the world along with them. I did truly sort of bristle at this idea at first, and I don't think you want to overdo it or overshare your inherent position of con man, but once in a while it's okay to break the immersion by letting your players know you might need a minute or two to, come up with what's next. I typically feel like I want to maintain the illusion for the players no matter what, that whatever they're doing or wherever they're going already exists in some way outside of ourselves. But of course, the reality is we're all just making something new moment to moment. We're just making shit up. And that's literally the core activity of this entire category of games. So the moral is, don't stress. Just have fun. Do you have to already be a good bullshit artist to DM or GM a game? Not at all. You can learn as you go. There's this thing with writers, the notion of being a plotter or a pantser. Pantser means flying by the seat of your pants, or writing by the seat of your pants. Much less cool, but Plotters are folks who maybe start their writing projects with full outlines or synopses. Synopsises? Whatever. They like to map out a story structure or plot before writing a single word of actual story. And a lot of times in my life, I've wished I was a plotter. But for better or worse, I definitely lean more towards the pantser way of things. Check my 401k if you think I'm kidding. Let's say you've got an adventure going. You're running something someone else wrote, or you've got your own notes and maps laying out all your points of interest and plot points and NPCs, etc. And you're thinking, what the hell is this dude jabbering about? I'm not making anything up. I got all these piles of information right in front of me, and I'm sure you do. I'm also 100% sure that at some point, your players are going to do something or go somewhere that takes them off the rails. You're going to have to, say it with me now, make shit up. Sometimes I feel the best, most accurate allegory for what a dungeon master is doing while running a game is summed up in this Wallace and Gromit clip. That's what DMing is to me. So there's no reason to freak out if your players don't talk to Mr. X to get the map to location Y. If your players ignore Mr. X, they're probably going to run into Mrs. Z, and when they do, lo and behold, she's got this strange map. Or, you've described for your players the ruined monastery at the top of the mist-shrouded mountain just outside the town. The one the townsfolk have been complaining about because of the ghost and the ghoulish ghouls running around in the courtyard, wreaking havoc on all the local flora and fauna. And then your players snare themselves in a scuffle with the town bully and his drinking buddies, and there's a chase, and all of a sudden you've spent 3 hours making up different locations in this town for your players to go crash through and fight in. And of course, underneath that monastery on your map is your multi-level dungeon, completely prepped and ready to eat your players alive. It's full of bad guys and traps, and most importantly, treasure. There's no way you're going to let that location go to waste. So when your players disregard every hint and NPC that begs them to go and end the ghost haunting the monastery, and instead decide to follow some throwaway news item you conjured up as flavor detail in the local paper, do medieval villages have local newspapers? No, probably not, but this is fantasy. Just leave me alone. When your players go walkabout investigating the rumors of that made-up criminal enterprise working out of the basement of the local tavern, well, when they sneak into that basement, they find it empty, aside from the barrels of ale and sacks of dry goods, and that one weird iron door set in the furthest corner of the room. Of course, that door now happens to lead to a multi-level dungeon full of bad guys and traps, and most importantly, treasure. Now, it might just be that I possess a certain skill that you simply don't have, right? And that skill is called painting oneself into a corner. I often excel at that kind of paintwork. Because I like to riff on open world descriptions, I often put things into players' minds that to me are just off-the-cuff flavor text, but to them are subtly shiny clues and hints. But it's all good. Wherever they go, my job is to make sure there's something for their next foot to land on when they take a step. Maybe D&D is really just one big trust exercise. Anyway, conjuring up images and things does come relatively easy to me. That's not to say they are logical or have any sort of depth to them. I typically have to work to make my made-up nonsense make sense for the players. And you might be saying, hey man, conjuring up images is not relatively easy for me. And that's okay too. You don't have to imagine fresh stuff all the time. You can rip stuff off from movies and books and video games. You can just swipe to your heart's content. You're not infringing on copyright or copying out or failing at dungeon mastering when you're making stuff up on the fly. You're just playing a game with friends. You're giving players ambiance and things to consider. And something else that comes up quite a bit is that your players often end up becoming an unwitting source of inspiration for you. They're going to say things and do things that you didn't think of, and those things can immediately become part of your imagined scenarios and world. Even when you're working with written material, you should always keep in mind that you can change any of that written stuff at any time in any way you feel like. Obviously, you're hopefully working towards giving your players a good time, so it's not like you're going to change that orc in room 23 to a dragon that's 90 times more powerful than your players. I mean, unless you sort of want them to run away in a different direction, there's that. Everything's on the table when you're running a game. It's up to you to tailor your imagination to what you think your players enjoy, and you just got to pay attention to how they react to what you're laying down for them. You could run an entire combat encounter without ever rolling a single die for your monsters. Now, don't call the RPG police on me, geez. You could just make up whether the monster hits or not. You could make up a number for how much damage they do. You could make up some weird power they have or some weird action. You could literally do all that on the fly. Now, of course, you want to fit what you're making up into the structure of the game rules so the players have ways to engage and interact fairly with everything. Sure, I'm just saying we can acknowledge the bottom line here. That running a D&D session or a Blades in the Dark session, or a Pathfinder session, or a Shadowrun session, or whatever RPG session is truly, at its core, just making shit up. I'll point out one caveat here, and this is just sort of par for the course. Whether you're making stuff up on the fly, or running a pre-built adventure, whatever is put out to the group becomes part of the imaginary world, and consistency is something to be cognizant of. So when you move that multi-level dungeon from the mountain monastery to the tavern basement, you basically got to make a note of that detail. Because now, that's officially where the dungeon is. Because now your made-up nonsense is part of a consensual group hallucination. That sounds self-explanatory when discussing something huge like a dungeon location, but it's the smaller details that are more difficult to keep track of, and some note-taking is definitely in order during a game. Just for items or details that are of particular interest to the shape of your imaginary world and its characters. So, go run a game, and make stuff up. Or don't. Use somebody else's made up stuff. Just have fun and don't stress too much. See ya.